Well, hello and good afternoon. It is November the 22nd of 2022, and this is something that we've been discussing. We'll be planning on doing this more often when there are interesting things that come up in the D&D campaigns. So you all don't see a reflection of my computer screen. I'm going to take off my glasses though, so excuse me for being blind. First of all, I'd really like to apologize for last week's broadcast not having volume. Getting used to a new computer and new tech and muddling through it. Have everything fixed at this point from what we can tell. So that's lovely and helpful and glorious and a beautiful thing. Beyond that, thank you and welcome. I'm planning on letting you all in on a little bit of how it is the last time were in Nox Vitalia. That all went down the way it did without being too brutal on the players and still bringing them right to that brink. There were a few things that actually went into this for me thinking-wise. I didn't just pull it out of nowhere. That was a planned encounter. It wasn't just the DM rolls a random encounter and this is what these poor fools got. I'm not that kind of DM. I've used random encounters before, but more often than not, especially with a broken challenge rating system, it doesn't work. So, that being said, let's get into it. The first thing, one of the more important ones that was going on, is that when those dire wolves attacked the party, they were too far apart to use pack tactics. Also, perception rolls were high enough that I could get away with it relatively easily without surprising or catching anybody off guard, thus getting rid of the ability for either of the wolves to keep advantage. One attacked from the front, one attacked from the back, basically. And then it was just a question of keeping them away from being able to use tactics of the pack. Yeah, I know. You could totally do that and it would have wiped the entire party. No. There's a time and a place for everything, including a full party wipe. I would be the first person to tell you that that time and that place are definitely not at level 1. Not unless everybody made a character that they absolutely hate. I'm not trying to TPK my entire party for the campaign I'm running. Actually, I've got a lot of storyline written and a lot of things planned for them, and that would completely decimate all of it. Because I'd have to start all over from square one, and that's boring. So that was the first thing I did, was just took that out of it. Now, if you're a D&D player, you have a player's handbook, and you would know yourselves that a singular direwolf, 3 level 1s, especially with a paladin, a fighter, and a druid in the mix, as what they were, would have mauled a direwolf in 1 to 2 rounds. No. Not cool. There's no satisfaction out of that. There's no feeling of accomplishment. It's, oh, look, a wolf, and now we've got a pelt. So 2 was kind of necessary, but 2 was really not what I had originally thought about in the same manner that most DMs would. If you look through the monster manual, or even the back of a player's handbook, I'm trying not to sneeze, so please excuse me when I do. What you'll find is that a singular direwolf has a challenge rating of 1. This means that, yes, a level 1 party is going to wipe the street with it. 2 of them would not have worked out as well. And there are no negative side effects to the party from what I did in order to make them slightly weaker. But to give you a hint, it is a part of a larger story arc that I'm pulling through because we have a druid who is a circle of the shepherd. As a result, they love all the fluffy, funny, odd beasties on the planet, and I'm playing off of that for plot hooks. This is a custom tailored, home-brewed thing that I did. Um, I'll probably post up the notes on what I did, how I did it, and what the reasoning behind it was. But it allowed me to be able to half the damage rolls from the dire wolves on a regular basis. Especially since I was rolling really crappy. And that allowed me to basically, for the most part, keep it by the dice. The third part is I know my party. I know the players that I'm playing with. And they're all thinkers. They're all ingenuitive. And they are all down to beat what would be considered semi-unsurmountable odds. So we made it work. And everything worked out really well for the most part. I mean, the paladin was left standing because I was rolling crappy, is why he got no damage. I mean, he was in the thick of it with a wolf, but one can only do so much. And everybody got their licks in. Everybody felt like they were useful because they were, and they couldn't have done it with a smaller party. I don't care. It just wouldn't have happened. I do use my creatures, monsters, mobs tactically. For the most part, I just needed to remove tactics of the pack in this one particular case so that I could, work around it a little bit. That's what homebrewing is for. The rules are pretty good as is, but every now and then you find something that's just not going to work with your plot twists, so you modify things a bit. And while those wolves were technically less of a experience rating, because of the amount of mortality involved, I increased the amount of experience. Not to mention there's all the other stuff that they had done before leaving town. And I do give experience for skill checks and uses and stuff like that in smaller amounts because you do so many of them that it all adds up. And that's based kind of on how it's in the Dungeon Master's Guide of recommending it based on how much of your story hinged on them figuring this out, on getting a hold of things, being able to incorporate everything that you want into one place. Like, these guys are awesome. And I say guys in more of the, hey you guys, like from the Goonies. I do realize that at least one of my players plus myself are non-binary, and yeah, I know, it's November. And no shaves in November. And one is male, and that's just how it is. So when I say you guys, it's just a grouping. I'm very much supportive for all of the reasons, including being non-binary myself, of other people's identification, no matter what it may or may not be. And I think that's part of why my players like working with me, is that it's a guarantee that you could be anything in my world. It's all canon. I allow characters who have all sexualities, sexual identities. I might stop it if somebody decided that they were going to identify as an ooze. Because that's just a little bit, yeah. But for the most part, nothing wrong with any of it. And supporting them in that is actually a part of what makes it work out so well. Now, the chat will probably stay empty for this particular one because I didn't schedule it. I didn't post that I was going to be doing this. I let the group know I was going to because, well, I have to we clear everything past each other for this channel before we even bother doing something. It just seems like a better way to do it so nobody feels like they didn't have a say. There is one other thing that I did have to do. That wolf that was on the cart with Viridia. Props to her for drawing the sickle and trying to kill it with it. She's pretty close, honestly. He only had like 5 or 6 hit points left. And props to... I cannot remember the Aarakocra's name to save my life, and I'm kicking myself, but it's a new campaign, so I haven't heard it enough, and I'm just terrible with names. If I'm gonna be honest. Yeah, as a result, I had all of my players, and it worked out perfectly. But I did have to fudge one roll. I know. Buy the dice. Give them what the dice give, right? Well, that's all well and good. But the fact is, that would have been terrible for the continuity of the story. Because the party would have been wiped at level 1. Now, there are some DMs out there, we call them heels where I come from, who enjoy putting their players through that kind of hell. I'm not one of them. Will I bring them to the brink of death time and again? Yes. Will I do it every time? No. I'm going to make sure that they have some easy fights, some hard fights, some what the hell fights, and some I can't believe we lived through that fights. But in this particular case, 2 out of the 3 characters could not have taken that critical hit. And the third one probably couldn't have taken it either, to be perfectly honest. There were too many... Well, there were just too many variables for me to risk it. And nobody likes it when their brand new character that they've just spent 2 weeks working on dies. So... versus letting them die and nobody having the 1,000 gold required to, resurrect them at a temple somewhere. I fudged 1 roll. Yep, I lied about it. I rolled 1 crit that they couldn't have taken. And instead I just let it go. Because it had to go that way. There were some other roles that you all would have seen me doing while I was figuring out whether or not the thing that I had homebrewed was affecting that particular set of wolves. In that round or not. Yeah, they all had to make a saving throw every round. Now, once this week's over and there's a little bit of a reveal, I will be typing up what it was and putting it somewhere where we can send it as a part of what's going on in the world. I don't want to spoil anything for my players is all. So that's how I did that. I made sure to keep the two wolves apart so that they couldn't use tactics of the pack and get advantage on all of their attack rolls. Great skill, terrible to put up against level 1s. I did something to nerf them that works into my plot hooks, i.e. these were definitely pre-planned. And I made sure I knew my players well enough and had been playing with them for a while, so I knew how their playstyle worked, what kind of things are going to get them going, where they're going to be sitting there questioning things, and where they're just going to be happy with the result. The point is to push your characters, give them storylines, give them story arcs, give them things that will make your game go on until it ends. I have rules through homebrew websites and stuff like that to get them all the way to level 50. They might actually get there. I don't just dole out experience like there's no tomorrow, but I also don't chintz on it, and you don't have to go around monster hunting to get your experience playing in my games. Which I'm sure there are many players out there who would be very happy to hear about. That being the case, I'll also be typing up a new experience table that will explain why it is that I was able to dish out experience the way I was. And those are things that I'm planning on putting on DM's Guild, hint, hint, nudge, nudge, and giving to our Patreon donators once I get them typed up as quickly as I can, so that maybe you can use them in your own games if you're interested. I mean, that's the whole point of this. We're running a great game, and we've chosen to share our campaigns with the people around us and on the internet and the world because we feel like we've got great stories that we can tell, all of us. So, thank you for watching. Please like us and subscribe. We love you. We'd love to see you. Comment, interact, ask questions. We do answer questions. We do reply to our comments section. If you direct a question at a particular player, they will reply to you. If it's directed at the group, we'll try and get everybody to reply to you. Because we actually want to build a fan base that cares about us and show you all that we care about you too, and we don't want you to just sit there and watch, but we're okay with interacting with you. At least on a platform. I mean, it is what it is, and every one of you is important to us. You're going to probably end up being a bit of a extended family to us in the long run. You're the people who are making it so that maybe one of these days we can all quit our day jobs and do this and give you something entertaining and good stories and great ideas to play with, new ways to do things. We're a bunch of Star Trek geeks. We're a bunch of Dungeons and Dragons nerds. We love fantasy and all of the stuff about it. And we have great support from the family and friends who are already involved. And we'll only get more support as time moves on. So thank you for watching this little blurble and delve into what happened in Nox Vitalia and how it is that that managed to not kill the party when every DM on the planet would be screaming, why aren't you using tactics of the pack? Why aren't those wolves hitting harder? Why are 3 level 1s still alive? Well, now you know. Because they were a part of a bigger story arc. And that's not a spoiler for the players. The what it is, well, we'll see about that on Sunday.